You're watching OTT TV Scripture Reality.
Certain that we stand at a defining hour. Halfway around the world, we are engaged in a great struggle in the skies and on the seas and sands. We know why we're there. We are Americans, part of something larger than ourselves. For 2 centuries, we've done the hard work of freedom, and tonight, we lead the world in facing down a threat to decency and humanity. What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law. Such is a world worthy of our struggle and worthy of our children's future.
The peaceful transfer of authority is rare in history. With a simple oath, we affirm old traditions and make new beginnings. We must follow no other course. Every child must be taught these principles. Every citizen must uphold them. When we see that wounded traveler on the road to Jericho, we will not pass to the other side. Now it is a seed upon the wind, taking root in many nations. We know the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. Do you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm? This work continues. The story goes on, and an angel still rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm.
World you are graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. To lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
The COVID-19 crisis has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century. It has laid bare the fundamental lack of social cohesion, fairness, inclusion, and equality. In short, we need a great reset. We have a choice: to remain passive, which would lead to the amplification of many of the trends we see today: polarization, nationalism, racism, and ultimately increased social unrest and conflicts. But we have another choice. We can build a new social contract, particularly integrating the next generation. We can change our behavior to be in harmony with nature again. And we can make sure that the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution are best utilized to provide us with better lives. It is obvious that we are in the midst of the most severe crisis the world has experienced since World War II. 75 years ago, countries and people came together to shape the post-war global order, which brought us decades of peace, increased global cooperation, and prosperity to hundreds of millions of people around the world. Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system for the need for the post-corona era. We have to mobilize all constituents of our global society to work together. We must not miss this unique window of opportunity. The fourth industrial revolution will impact our lives completely. It will not only change how we communicate, how we produce, how we consume. It will change actually as our own identity. And of course gives life to such policies and developments like smart traffic, smart government, smart cities. What we will see is that everything will be integrated into an ecosystem driven by big data and driven particularly by close cooperation also of governments with business, civil society, and this revolution will come at a breathtaking speed. It will be like a tsunami.
It's at the end, what the fourth industrial revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities.
When we disagree, it'll be just like, so far it's been just like what Barack and I did. It's in private. She'll say, I think we should do A, B, C, or D. And I'll say, I like A, don't like B and C. And let's go, okay. And I told Barack, if I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order. Because the global order is changing again. And the institutions and the rules that worked so well in the post-World War II era for decades, they need to be strengthened. And some have to be changed. So we have to do what we do best. We have to lead. We have to lead. We have to update the global rules of the road. We have to do it in a way that maximizes benefits.
The world you are graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. To lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
We may see the US also joining in the future. I think COVAX is also a very important step in order to make sure that the gap between, let's say, the developed countries and the emerging countries, the least developed countries, is not widening. We have seen that the blow of the virus to those countries is a particular, let's say, serious and damaging one. And here with COVAX, we ensure that those people also can enjoy, and also, of course, on a European basis, with the much better cooperation compared to what we have seen in the past, we ensure that we do not increase unfairness in the distribution of all the remedies which we need in order to fight this virus. I think also here we need a reset. We cannot go back to the system of multilateralism which we have established after World War II. What we need is a reform of the international system. Just think of the WTO. We have to integrate the new dimensions of global trade, like everything which has to do with e-commerce and so on. So definitively, multilateralism will get a boost by the election of President Biden. And I'm very hopeful that we can now create the necessary systems which we need for the 21st century.
Let's face facts. The state of our planet is broken. Humanity is waging war on nature. This is suicidal. Nature always strikes back and is doing so with gathering force and fury. The central objective of the United Nations for 2021 is to build a truly global coalition for carbon neutrality.
The continued surge of protest movements across the world reflect the socio-economic and political crisis. No government can afford to ignore these powerful demands for change.
سوف نبقى الأوفياء للسلام والعدل والكرامة الإنسانية والوطنية مهما كانت الظروف.
All human life is priceless and valuable. Empathy is not weakness. Empathy is courage. And empathy is strength. Through empathy, our global community can overcome any challenge from COVID-19 to climate change.
UNITAMS will support the transitional government in implementing its national plan for civilian protection in order to establish a secure and stable environment in the conflict-affected areas.
Well, there are two aspects. I think existing governance structures have not been adequate. And exactly what the new structure should be, I don't know. But it requires an understanding that the new governance structure will have to be more multilateral and will have to take into account that there are now more centers of decision that have to be included. First, you need a statement of the problem. That ideally should come from the United States, partly because it has produced the crisis. But it's unlikely that the United States will alone put forward these ideas. So I would think at the G20, it would help if the G7, who have been the central focus up to now, come forward with some directions, and that then the other countries, like Brazil, come forward with supplementary and additional ideas. But this is sort of how I would proceed. But every international system has this problem. You cannot include all the 195 states in the decision-making process, or you'll never get a decision made. And there are also, frankly, some states that whose knowledge and competence in the overall international system would not be up to the level of the more experienced states. So how you would set it up so that you have a governing organization that I think G20 is a very good start because they represent over 60% of the world's GDP. But I frankly don't have an idea of how you would represent the other groups as you go from G7 to G20. That's already a very big step. Probably you can set up some advisory councils, but I haven't thought that through, quite frankly. There is, among the G20, not necessarily such a cohesion that they can operate unless they go beyond their own national interest. But this is, in any negotiation, one of the problems, that the people conducting the negotiation are national representatives. The interests that need to be represented include international and global interests. And one has to hope that there is a level of statesmanship that, looking at the extent of the difficulties that we face, realizes that we need a constructive outcome.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play.
Now is the time to think what history would say about this crisis. And now is the time for all of us to define our own role. What is it that would make it so that history would look at this crisis as the great opportunity for reset?
The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate, and rebalance our world. Rebalancing investment, harnessing science and technology, and advancing the transition to net zero emissions, all elements of the Great Reset, are fundamental to building the future we need.
The world's problems fit on three sides of a triangle. It's one versus many, man versus nature, and the unfortunate foundation is long-term versus short-term.
We had already income inequality that was fueling income, race, gender inequality. We have a climate emergency, which we can't walk away from. There's no doubt that the very survival of the human race requires us to act.
Any recovery stimulus should have green conditions attached to it. Energy prices should reflect real costs.
You need private sector capital, private sector ingenuity, private sector technology, and private sector capabilities to come to the party. You need enormous trust between the private sector and the public sector for this to actually work.
We have to change our economy dramatically in the next 20 or 30 years, and the next 10 years is absolutely decisive.
The recovery has to be greener than any of the previous recoveries. And in order to do that, we need to ensure that the stimulus package, including fiscal and monetary, are much greener than they were before. So we cannot waste this opportunity to ensure that the very precious money that's raised from the next generation is spent on green and low carbon.
We will now start a quite high number of task forces to look at all the different issues, and we will present all those ideas to the people assembled in Davos. But at the same time, we will make Davos very different, very open, to ensure that we do not fall back to old recipes, but that we really look at forward-oriented solutions.
Young entrepreneurs, especially from developing countries that are there and can see the right problem, can really step up and create solutions.
Finding profitable solutions to problems of the people and the planet, and we're starting to see firms move to that, and we're seeing firms that behave responsibly in that way actually doing better on conventional measures of profitability and doing better in this particular period.
We've also seen social entrepreneurs step in incredible ways. Not only has it exposed the precarious reality, but then it has also exposed the opportunity to recenter, the reset around the most vulnerable and those on the edge, where it only takes something like a pandemic or difficult circumstances to slide into poverty.
And then we need to couple that with new initiatives to equip more people with the digital skills they'll need, not just to have a tech job, but a job that is increasingly tech-enabled in almost every part of the economy. If we can empower consumers with all of this, I think we unleash this next generation to have a much broader impact more quickly.
We can never again allow our health, education, care systems to be underfunded.
We need our imagination here. Possible is being redefined each and every day right now. So the next time someone tells us that tackling climate change is either too costly or too difficult, I think we need to remind them and remind ourselves of what just is happening right now.
We not only have to demand change, but also create change.
We have to live up to the expectations which we have created, and we will do so.
No matter if they have 5 eyes or 10 eyes, if they dare harm China's sovereignty, security and development interests, beware of their eyes being poked out and blinded.
We will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. For years, Congress has required biometric entry-exit visa tracking systems. In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Nobody does it like OTT TV.
There's a YouTuber that I just found out about, and the name of his channel is OTT TV. OT as in Thomas, T as in Thomas, TV.